Hi, I'm Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I'm working again on the Broken Star quilt, and I'm going to be working on the star points on the outer star. I've switched my thread in my needle to Fad, which is a color by Signature thread. It's 100% cotton, and in the bobbin I have teal, and the teal is what is going to match my backing fabric, and that is also by Signature. It's just a solid color thread, and they're both 40 weight. So I'm all ready to go, and I wanted to show you how I'm going to quilt these star points. Now, what I decided to do for the diamonds in the Broken Star and in the Lone Star in this quilt was just to do a continuous curve. Now, the diamonds are fairly large. They're 3 inches, so just doing a continuous curve was not enough quilting for this quilt, because the quilting I did in the blocks was a little more dense than this. So what I decided to do was to quilt a swirl in the center of those diamonds. But first off, I decided to go ahead and do all the continuous curve and then do the swirl. Now, I'm doing my best to keep this in a continuous quilting pattern without having to stop and start. But because this diamond goes through, or the star goes through this entire quilt, there isn't any way not to stop and start unless I continually roll the quilt back and forth. And for this project, I kind of wanted to start at the top and quilt all the way through the quilt. And so which that is not my normal pattern. I normally stitch in the ditch to stabilize things, and I don't mind rolling back and forth, but for this project, especially with these diamonds, I thought it might be easier if I could just work from the top to the bottom of this quilt. And you can't get a clear path through everything in one swoop, so I had to kind of stop and start and rearrange the quilt, roll it forward or backward to get to parts of those star points. Now, the thread is that variegated thread by Signature called Fad, and it is a 40 weight cotton thread. And in the bobbin I have a teal color. It's also by Signature, and it's 100% cotton and a 40 weight. So for me, I think it's important to have the same weight thread in the bobbin as in the needle. It helps balance your tension a lot better. And I know a lot of quilters don't worry about that. They will have different weights of thread in the bobbin from what they have in their needle, and they do just fine. But I prefer to have the same weight in both the bobbin and in the needle. Now, right now I am working in stitch regulated mode, and I am doing, I think, 12 stitches per inch, and that gives me a little bit more consistency in the stitch length, and I can stop and try and figure out where I need to go next. If I get to a point where I'm not real certain which way I need to move the machine. And with these star points, when they're going in so many different directions, these diamonds do, because they are forming a star. Sometimes I would get kind of confused. It's like, okay, now which is the best way to go in order to continue quilting in a continuous manner and not having to break thread and start and stop again. So the stitch regulated mode did work better for me here. And the curve that I'm stitching in here isn't very deep. It's a fairly shallow curve. That way it gives me plenty of room to put the swirl in. And this is the center, the very center of the quilt. That hot pink star is the very center, and that is a lone star there in the center of the quilt. So this actually didn't take very long to do all this. Continuous curve is fairly quick, and it actually, I think it gave a really nice look to this quilt, along with the quilting that was already done in the squares. Now I'm going to work on the swirls, and all of these swirls are going in pretty much the same direction. I'm not switching them. The only switching that I had to do was when I would go from the portion of the frame that was closest to me quilting towards the back of the machine, and then when I switched from the back of the machine and come down towards me, I'd have to switch the way I was moving the machine to make that swirl. So a lot of that was very easy to do. It was just a matter of paying attention to which way I was quilting and which way the swirls were already quilted in the quilt, and that helped me keep from getting confused. And you can see here I have some of those swirls drawn in with chalk, and that was a good way to get me started so that I could see which way I wanted those swirls to go, and I just followed that. And you can see I am going from one diamond to the next. Right here I'm stopping. I'm not sure why I'm doing that, but normally I would go from one diamond to the next and just go through that point there. And I really don't know why I stopped there. Now my goal was to do all of this quilting without stopping and starting and breaking thread, but it turned out that I wasn't able to do that, and that's probably more operator error than anything. But I know there's a way you could probably get through this without stopping and starting, but I just didn't seem to be able to do it, and decided not to fight it and just work with what was going on. I've learned that sometimes it's just not worth fighting certain things. Now the swirls, I think, gave this these diamonds a little motion, and I'm really happy with the way they turned out. And I'm happy that I used that variegated thread. I think that was a good choice for this quilt in the end. And I'm really happy with the finished project. And when my daughter received it, she was real happy with it too. And I don't have the quilt anymore. It is with my daughter, and as I said, she moved overseas, so I don't have access to it. But I did take photographs of the quilt before I gave it to her, and I'm going to show you some photographs of that. And I want to thank you for sticking with me through this quilting process. I know it was long. There were a lot of videos to watch to get to this point, but I hope it was worth the effort for you, and I appreciate you sticking with me with this project. for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.